It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, we're joined by none other than Helen and Marcella, the Gazelles of this year's Dakar Classic Rally, to talk about all things Land Rovers and desert racing. And now, without delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Beres, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at theberescollection.com or follow us on Instagram at theberescollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I'm the salty undercarriage to Steven's galvanic corrosion. I'm the jagged rust hole of podcasting, Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, no time for news this week because finally,
At long last.
we have secured what is an interview I've been looking forward to for a very long time now, ever since this year's Dakar Classic and our friends Helen and Marcella, the Gazelles, in their Defender, bombing across the desert. And we have, through remote link in their far-flung regions of Europe, secured an interview with him today.
No, I'm really excited about this one. This is a blockbuster. These guys are great. And, if this goes to show that anyone can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can really achieve what you want. And these guys really did it. They built their car from scratch. They did the world's toughest rally, and a lot of times when people said they couldn't. So this is an inspiring story, and I really enjoyed watching them, and they're so down to earth, and they did a really great YouTube series, and their interviews during their rally were super fun to watch.
Oh, super fun.
This is going to be a good one.
Speaking of experts in their class, we called in an expert because what do we know about desert rallying? We happen to have a couple of experts here on the team. So Jenna is going to join us with some actual fact-based questions that matter as opposed to our normal affair. So let's juice up the old interview machine and jump in there.
All right, let's do it.
All right, here we are. At long last, we are here with Helen and Marcella, the Gazelles of the Dakar Classic. We have been looking very forward to chatting with you two for quite some time now. Obviously, everyone here and around the world followed your incredible journey through the Dakar Classic, which, what a year it was this year. Some exciting stuff, great stuff for Land Rovers across the board. And even that new one that they won't let you call a Land Rover was there. So really exciting stuff. So welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And we can't wait to get into a chat. Let's talk about this. Where in the world did you come up with the idea that not only would you get into the idea of a long-distance adventure racing, but that you would do it in a classic car and, surprisingly, a classic Land Rover car? So how did that come about? How did you guys come up with the idea for this project?
Yeah, Marcella will say it was my idea. Where did it come from? Well, it started with running the Gazelle, which obviously I live in France, so the Gazelles is a massive thing here. Not so much in the UK, but in France it's huge. And so I actually first heard about it in Morocco with Marrakesh. And a friend talked about Gazelle so I came home and I looked it up and thought, that was quite good fun. And I already had a Land, we didn't use, by the way, we didn't use Clarissa for the Gazelles. I built the first 110 and it just felt natural to do it in a Land Rover, kind of DNA, a Brits almost. And the first Gazelles were very dramatic. really quite dramatic. My first teammate, we weren't that compatible, to be fair. We didn't find that out until we got to the dinner. And think when you're in a situation where you're in an intense situation, and really there's obviously other teams involved, but not for me, and I don't know whether General agree with this, or not for me being out in the desert. So you're competing against other people, you're mostly competing with yourself. And if you don't get on with the person in the other side of the car, it doesn't work. So, yeah, I think it probably all comes down. It seemed like a good idea to try. And I was trying up to 50 when I did my first Gazelles, and it was my pre-50 challenge. And I thought it would be a one-off event, and then it kind of turned into a bit.
Well, that's it. How did you end up meeting each other? Where did this obviously that partner wasn't the right fit. So how do you shop for a partner to do something like this?
Long before I got into the Gazelles, I knew Marcella. We've known each other for 20. So we met when we both moved to France, and we had a mutual friend. Basically, method parting at mutual friends 21 and a bit years ago, and we both moved to France without our paths, and we did each other. You know, we got on, and when you move to a new country that you don't speak the language and everything's complete misery, you have to work it out together, and that's what we did. And thank God we found each other. That's all I can say.
You talked about how the chemistry in the car with your previous teammate wasn't, it just wasn't quite the right fit. That is absolutely something, like in Rebel, we talk about all the time about how the chemistry is probably the most important ingredient to a team being successful, because how would you say that what is sort of your communication style in the car? Like, how did you find a sweet spot? Do you have like safe words, do you, when you're both getting tired and hot and hangry, can you read each other well? Do you have, sort of pause, any comments that you make to each other in a good headspace?
I think we know each other so well. We've been through literally everything that life can throw at you together. So we don't have a filter between. And I think because we do each other so why we actually managed to survive something like Aaron's Ray. We're just us, and because we all know what each of us thinking to an extent, and yeah, we have times when we're getting fractious because we haven't had enough sleep or whatever. We just have to say, actually, we just need to stop here, reset, and it just involves getting out of the car and then we start again.
That's exactly how Stephen and I reconcile our differences.
That's exactly. Well, if we've had a bad podcast, we'll hug it out. That's true.
Yeah. and Dakar, there's nobody else that I would have done Dakar. I can't imagine I can't surviving that long with anybody else. And it wasn't just when we were in the car. We camped. We were literally together 24 hours a day. So you have to know somebody well. And yeah, I wouldn't have any other way. I don't think, oh gosh, it would have been better if we'd slept in a separate tent. I don't think that at all. I think it would be worse.
Well, here's a question. So from the time that you did Gazelle to the time that you did Dakar, how long was that span of time?
So the first Gazelles was in 2019, and then obviously this is 2026. In that time, I did a second Gazelle with another different teammate. That was better, that was Purdy. And that's where Marcella came into the equation, because although we'd known each other for a long time, in the sort of intervening period from when we arrived in France until then, we moved back to the UK. But she still has property in France, and she was here visiting, and we'd had dinner and made some wine. New adventure coming up, don't have a teammate, and he pitched up and then might have regretted that.
So the vehicle itself, is this the same vehicle through this whole process, or did you build it specifically for this event?
Purdy was built specifically for Dakar. Decided to do Dakar, which was a kind of, let's give it a go and be right. If you don't know, we don't know, do you? So I looked at, I've used my 10 Priscilla, used her for the first 2 Gazelles and the first rally that Marcella and I did together. Also for a Santana trophy. Rally that Stella and I did together in Morocco, we used it because I might have blown up the back axle. And then another Santana trophy in Purdy. So Purdy's, and I thought, okay, I could make Priscilla conform. It would mean pulling her up. So that just seemed, let's start again. Let's start from ground zero.
Right.
And really that we and Ed will help you car build. It's fantastic. That didn't work out. Several down the line, and it wasn't going in the right direction. And so I decided that we would go, because that was in the UK, and I just go train and bring everything back home and do it ourselves.
Well, that's a big decision. And, do you have a lot of experience working on these vehicles outside of the events?
Absolutely zero for me. Cars never changed a wheel till I did my first rally with Helen, because I just thought, you call you dad or the RAC. I mean, why would you change one yourself? And then it became very apparent that to learn to do that. And we got really good at that. At competition at changing wheels. We were really quick at it. But as far as cars go, I can.
Should we call you if we get a flat?
Yeah, if we're in France,
or the UK.
Get a flat.
I'm in the UK,
Right. Oh, so you're available in both countries.
Yeah, you've got Europe. Europe's covered for. We're okay at that. But Helen is fantastic. She built that car with her husband, so she knows about cars. But I'm a check if the oil's okay and it's time for a service kind of girl. But I learned so much from Helen watching her. And I think if you've built your car, you must better than anybody,
That's true.
I have also learned a lot from Helen watching her, because she did an amazing YouTube series about the build, which you should all check out.
Absolutely. To be fair,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of YouTube series about building things, generally speaking, but they tend to be a little bit dry. I think that the average presenter, about the process and, whatever. Your build videos are absolutely fantastic and entertaining from stem to stern, which I think is the most important. If you're going to watch something, then it should be entertaining. I have to say, you definitely have a potential YouTube career burgeoning there. We just need you to get to build something else. Maybe you two would like to renovate a home or something. I think we'd watch that. Yeah.
We've done that. We've done that.
Hear me out.
Ooh, yeah.
Hear me out. Submarine race.
Submarine race.
I like it.
Yeah, something underwater or underground sounds good at the moment.
So you did this build, this unexpected build, and then you have the logistical hurdles of getting the vehicle to the event. Was there any false steps or unexpected happenings in the logistical process, the technical inspection, that sort of thing, or did it all go pretty smoothly?
I was worried about taking a technical inspection, because we did build it ourselves and we got a lot of our information from YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And Fredo more than us. So it's a big step to take something that you've basically built in your shed for an FIA level action. Luckily, our service crew, Dakar forever, have lots of contacts. They actually put me in touch with Chiefs, and we got an inspection. So that involved Burgundy, which is like a 5-hour drive on a train. For me, that was peace of mind. She'd had pre-inspection. There were things that he was happy with. I just thought, if I end up in Barcelona and they say, you've not done that right and you haven't got this or whatever, that's too late. That pre-inspection was 100% worth it.
Yeah.
It was pain, it's a long trip and all the rest of it, but it was so worth it. And to be fair, there wasn't a lot that we changed, just some little bits and pieces. But it would have just been awful if we turned up at Barcelona. I mean, they do a re-inspection when you get to Yanbu or to Saudi. It was Yanbu for us. But in the intervening period, the car's going to be rebuffed.
Yeah.
So doing the pre-inspections than getting it right 100%.
Yeah, otherwise you gotta work on it on a boat.
Or in Saudi once you get there, yeah, frantically.
Yeah, well, famously, I think it was like the old 29 Peugeot that ran in one of the early Dakars. They rebuilt the transmission in transit on the boat.
That's wild. Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like much fun. So I think the pre-inspection is a good pro tip.
Definitely less frantic.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's the way you want to do it, really. I mean, the ideal. Yeah.
That was a bit of a shock or an eye-opener to me, to be honest. When we got to the bivouac, Purdy was sat there looking pretty, and we walk around the bivouac, and everybody is working on their cars. And I'm like, what? Didn't you do that before you got here? Why are you all, went over to the defender stand, and of course they've got 80 mechanics, 80 mechanics, something like. And these cars are in pieces, and I'm saying to them, why are you not ready to go?
Right.
We leave in 2 days' time, But of course, I'd got prepared and ready. But I was surprised how many people were still on their cars in Saudi before the prologue.
And what was the reaction from the other competitors watching you just cool, totally ready and prepared while they're frantically scrambling to get stuff together?
Yeah, it was more of the big teams that seemed to do a lot of work, which seemed, to me, that seemed to be the wrong way around. Should have been us who was going, oh God, we've got it wrong, we can do something. But I think certainly within our little kind of, we were all quite cool.
I think I don't know. Yeah, the classic people were okay, weren't they?
Yeah, it's like when you test and you see that one kid finish early. Is he just really smart, or does he not know what's going on?
Or is he just really dumb? Yeah. Very naive. Yeah.
That we would get. Have we missed something really big here?
Yeah.
Final question, because it was on the other side of the page. Yeah, it was, but it was kind of then.
Well, it sounds like you were just expertly prepared. That's when you start racing. Is that a long period of time? Is there some downtime there?
Yeah.
3 days.
We got there on the 30th December.
Yeah.
And then the pro was the 3rd of January.
Have either of you been UAE, the Persian world, before that, or was this also like a first step in there?
Yeah. I spent a little bit of time in Kuwait last year. Okay. And then Dubai, for an airline years ago, and we used to pass through the UAE a lot. But it's changed massively, and going to Dubai this year after a 30-year break was quite a shock. But Kuwait kind of gave me a good idea of what Saudi would be like, to be honest. But it's still... I was in a town in cities in Kuwait.
Doing an event in Saudi. Really? Did it feel like a big deal when you were there, or you're just in that race bubble, right? Like, what was that dynamic like?
It is a race bubble. Because bivouac, but they're very keen to encourage all kinds of beer than for us, because I know there was the darts just after we got back.
Can you even play darts without drinking beer? I didn't think that thing to beer drinking from that sport was a huge challenge for the sport in general and the of players. So I imagine that it'd be pretty tricky. I saw a curling video recently of a guy who was smoking while curling back in the 70s. So
wow.
Yeah, it's great. He had a cigarette in his mouth as he was sliding down the ice. It's fantastic. That's fantastic.
I mean, I would believe you if you told me that curling originated from the art of sliding a mug of beer across ice, right?
That's right.
So
yeah,
it seems inseparable.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's certainly why we're good at it. I think that's why we didn't invent the sport, but we inherited it as our own. Yeah, generally, what not just on the classic side, but obviously the professional side as well. Did you meet Carlos Sainz Sr.? Does his skin look as great as it does in person as it does on television? I think they get in Formula One car.
It's one of the incredible things. It's a great leveler. There's no you're somebody important and we're just little split bivouac and we're all just. And there was an American team actually in the Classic, Chris and Kim. We were sitting having lunch with them. I think it was the second day we were there or something. And Carlos Sainz and Stefan Petter-Hansel was stood just like akin to somebody. And Kim was like, oh, I want to go and get the phone to me, but I can't go and ask them because that would just like be a bit sad. And I was like, oh, of course you can go. So I just, would you mind awfully if we have the photo? And then, oh, what are you doing here? You're in Classic. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. And we were having an after that. It was just like, yeah, talk to anybody because they were all really nice. And just going back to what you were saying, the Saudis were in on the organisation side were really the kind of big wig people. I don't think they were. They were all very welcoming. And one of our really special on the rally was on a road section, and we were driving along. I think I was driving, and there was a car pulled alongside, wasn't there? Do you remember? All those women in, and they were all fully dressed up, with whatever it's. And just their eyes shut.
Yeah.
And they were all doing hearts to us out of the window and launching our speed and waving, and it was really, really cool.
That still makes me go cold because we cried. I think they cried. We had literally just come out of a special section, so we were all off road on a big track. And they were in a crew cab type thing, pickup. Yeah, it was, we locked eyes and it was like, go girls, on this side. That was a really great moment. It was because, we all know it's a long time. It's not that long since they've been allowed to drive, so that was a good moment.
Yeah. So how would you describe the event and how it went for you guys as a debut competitor? Would you say it was a complete success or mostly a success, or there were some things you would change? How would you characterize that?
There's obviously things you would change. The best way to describe it is surreal. It's the most surreal thing I've ever, but it was awesome. It was emotional. It was exhausting. It was everything. And there was sort of times where you just went, I actually believe that I'm here. It's not like this big thing that you get. Okay, you get a wristband, and actually, I'm really sad because I've taken my wristband off.
So got mine.
It's like Coachella. Yeah, you get to the point where there's gonna be an infection that'll develop underneath that, and it'll have to be surgically removed. But that's fine. That's it's part of the process. So,
but it wasn't kind of
I think it's
you were at Dakar. I think you knew you were at Dakar, and if you thought about it, I'm not really sure. Yeah. This doesn't feel real. Do we have slight imposter syndrome? After saying this is our reality now for the next 3 weeks.
When you're being chased down a canyon, by a helicopter videoing you, and you just kind of look and go, no, Helen, slow down, don't show off. If we caught this up while the camera on us from a helicopter, we'd keep around.
That's right. Yeah, that's the worst. The worst fear. I'm sure you guys get off the start line.
Like during prologue, right? The guy that is just yelling at himself. Yeah,
it's a tough thing. But the pressure. You're in a televised event, and Ike and Liza and I watched this on television nonstop of the week of the Dakar, and like everyone else in the world, right? What's that pressure like to think that? Oh man, yeah, we're on television. We're on the BBC. We're on. Streamed here. It's actually NBC carried
on Peacock.
On Peacock carried the Dakar.
Yeah, we sometimes used to remember that, but not often. We sometimes used to remember that, but not often. Yeah,
and then stop swearing for us as well because we had the our car was fitted with their cameras that we switched on in the morning, and then they just ran until the car. And you forget about all the stuff came out, which was us singing stupid songs. I don't know how much you got in the States, but the Womble songs and the silly names that we gave the Roadbook it was that was going out to the wider world. It was really hard, and actually it wasn't until I got home a lot of the extended height things and thought, oh my God, no wonder people were sort of saying things to us.
Yeah, it was.
That's so funny.
And you had to, I mean, that was a great moment again with the helicopter, but there was lots of moments where a camera would just stay. I mean, I don't know if you know that on the last day we nearly didn't finish. It was very stressful. We only had to do that last bit, we were looking forward to it. We got up, today's the day we get our medal. And 20 kilometers in, we hit a rock. And we lost both at the same time. Not a problem. Let's get out. We're good at changing tyres, as I said earlier. But we'd lost the block for jacking up on. I don't know where that went. Shit, yeah. So I was under the car trying to jack it up while Helen was sorting the wheel nuts out, and kept slipping off the jack. The jack couldn't. It was just slipping in the sand the whole time. And she's 2.5 ton of car, and that was the only time I actually thought, we're not going to do it. We've got to just keep going. And your car slips off the jack again. And because if you're not going to help me, you're going to have to leave the area. Because, that was a big thing to us. But one of the German lorries from earlier in the week that we've got quite friendly with, they towed us out of trouble one day when they actually saw us and were going to stop to help, but then hit the same rock. So they lost a wheel. So they pulled in front anyway. But fortunately, they came over and brought all their super duper equipment and got us back on the road. But we'd got another, I think, 80 kilometres, Helen. I can't remember how far it was, without any spares. And that was frightening.
Totally. So actually, that brings up a question.
Yeah.
Can you clarify? I know right before the event, there was some new information about it was more money to have on-course support. Does that mean you couldn't have somebody bring another wheel and tire out to you on the course without paying that extra money?
Whoa.
Is that how that worked?
Oh, bad.
Yeah, basically, competitors can have jump course. The people who jump theoretically they have a different course. If you have on stage assistance, that's a truck meet, not necessarily, but normally a truck. But they also have to be registered as a competitor, and they might carry bits for very different teams. So they will always fit. So you may are on the course, you might have to wait quite a long time for them. Do we regret?
Oh,
not
right.
having
Okay, they're
on
in a different. Okay, fair enough.
Because other people coming bus will stop and help you and back if you stop and help somebody else. So, all the people that stopped and helped us on various stages for various different reasons would have got their time. And it is sort of the spirit of the Dakar.
Now, did you have an opportunity to help other competitors at some stage?
Yeah.
And that's any competitor from any class. So Carlos Sainz could have rolled up beside you and.
Could have called him. They just waved us on.
Oh, right. Okay.
Unless they've got a flat tire, nuts. Go, girl. Unless they've got a flat tire, no. Nuts. Go, girls. You just carry on. We'll catch up with you later. We always did stop to offer assistance because I've told a big fat fib there because we've got low sand ladders and we're good at digging out in the sand. So mechanically, some of them had more experience, but physically and the sand ladders, we were always and digging out and chucking and using our equipment as well as their own, because lots of cars are flying over the top of a dune and the exact place you want to be driving through to the top of the next dune, there's a car in it stuck.
Yeah.
I think that you did well to stop there, Helen. We were out the top of the car, out, my window. I had to climb out of there. Help them dig out, and then they stood on the side of our cart again. Yeah, we had some adventures in the dunes.
Wow, that is amazing. It truly is wow. It blows me away that in such a far-flung part of the world to do something so completely, incredible, all-encompassing, and really kind of put your life on full pause while you do that. What's the next big adventure? What do you guys have planned for this? What's bigger than the Dakar Classic? You go back and now next year you win, or what's the plan?
Submarine race.
Submarine racing, that's right.
Yes, of course. I forgot about that.
Yes, right.
Go on, Ellen.
We've looked at lots of different things. We've still got lots of different ideas, but when's what course going out? Can I tell you?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Bye, things.
It's such a struggle to do it, and such an investment of time and effort and money and all the things. And
Wanna go back.
real friends and calling you
next
favors
Monday.
and all that make an event like this happen.
Yeah. You
want to
And
go
then
back?
just be like, yeah, we
Awesome.
need to do it again.
Yeah, when we first finished, I was just like, I am never doing anything like that ever again. Ever. So don't even call me, right?
Well, I mean, most events like this, though, it's the same with Rebel, right? It's from being there the first time, and then you learn so much, and you're like, by the end of it, you're just, we want to do it again right now. Like, we have learned all these new skills, and we've gotten so much better. Like, are there any specific things that you guys felt like you learned just by being there that you weren't maybe expecting, or you didn't even know these new things that you're going to apply to, when you do it again?
Remember all the great stuff. And we did learn an awful lot. There was things we could, people think one of the things was to, on the day off, to go and stay in a hotel overnight. That didn't work for us. It might be our tent. So, and things going on there. And so that works for some people. Everyone will have their own experience and find out. And we kind of went with the flow. We did as much as we could. We took loads of snacks for during the day. No, I won't bother with that. As long as you've got a few bananas, you're all right.
And even just your head around the process with self-starting, because apart from the first test in the morning, there's nobody there to start process, and it's quite complicated. Even when you get your head around, I walked out of the briefing going, got the faintest little for out. And it's only when we actually, and we messed it up was on prologue, on the test.
Yes, the testing day, we messed it up.
And so it lies how many times that it finally kind of sinks in, because it's not necessarily complicated in my view, but that's the way it works, so fine. And then by the end, we got our head in.
The whole day at Dakar to get your head in. And so you just don't worry. I think another competitor actually done it bad. Don't worry, because it will become clear. You're getting it all out of shape, bent out of shape, really. And it did. It all became clear.
Changing as well. But you got to get your head around changing between different types of. Because when we did the test day, we didn't realise, because there's nothing to tell you that you finished the test either. From the trip, he just flashes up the time, just like that. And so we didn't realise on the test, which obviously is the day when you become fitter day, it didn't. It actually worse. And I think we did our first private test, got back and just sat there and went, oh my God, what have we just sat down? It doesn't make any sense. And we had a bit of a meltdown, didn't we?
Yeah, and it was red hot, and you've got all this new equipment that, we've worn race helmets before, but this was a whole new level of equipment, and you've got, 5-point harness on, you literally can't move, and you're strapped in, and so that was quite stressful in itself, because you can't see anything. I'm supposed to be navigating, you can't lean forward and have a look out your window. You just feel so, but that became normal as well. But on that test day, we'd got all this new equipment, new onboard equipment, and we just really thought, what have we done?
Perfect.
What have we done?
And
but it does. It becomes clear.
Best way
you just have to
gear
you just have to keep going at it.
Absolutely.
Each day.
Absolutely.
I think Steven's told me about a few dates he's been on like
exactly
that.
the same. Yeah, it's exactly the same. You just have to hold on and get through it until the next day. I think Liza would attest to that. It's how we work, just one day at a time.
Doesn't know what he's doing.
I'm just sort of in there and we're hoping for the best. That's sort of how it is. Both working on vintage Land Rovers and in my personal life. It's the same thing. Well, with that, I know that you have obviously conquered what is one of the greatest tests that one can do in but now it has come time to conquer one of the great in podcasting, and that is the Ike Goss lightning round questions. Ike, have you prepared a set of deeply personal and revealing questions for Helen and Marcella?
Absolutely not. I'm wholly unprepared. Excellent. But let's do this. So, ladies, the format here is a series of short questions and short answers. So just sort of your gut response to these, and you can alternate answers if you wish, you know. So
Who first then, Helen?
all right. So the first one, gas or diesel?
Well, diesel for us.
Diesel. All right. Perfect answer. Perfect answer.
There you
One
go.
for one.
Yeah.
One
That's a
for
good
one.
answer. Yeah.
All right.
Answer. Yeah.
Are you ready for this one? Soft top or hard top?
Yep. Hard every time.
Hard top every time. All right. Doesn't like the wind in the hair.
hard.
Okay.
I just liked
That's
the
fine.
word.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Fair enough.
All right. Sand or mud?
Then 100%.
Sand. 100% sand. Sand. All right. Hey, mud.
Mud that you boots.
Wow. Yeah, it's really hard to
That's
get
true.
mud. That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Good logic.
Leaf springs or coil springs?
I don't even know what they are.
Well, you got a 50%
Yeah,
chance.
you got a 50-50 here. So what's it going to be, Marcella? Nice. Well done. Well done. Yeah, well done.
Perfect. The best way to get gear oil out of your underpants.
I've never had gear oil in my
Don't get it in there. Don't get it in there.
Don't get it there to begin
All
with.
right, that's a perfect score.
That's fair
Well
enough.
done.
Yeah, don't get it in there. Well, Team Gazelle, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with both of you this morning, this afternoon for you. I do hope you'll come on again and tell us about the next adventure that you're going to embark on. And at some point, it would be great to do an in-person round table or something. We'll have to
Before we close this out, can we just point out, if we haven't already, that they are the first British American team ever to compete in
Nice.
Dakar, which is amazing.
Nice. Well done. Well, your story was definitely my favorite of this year's Dakar, and there was a lot to like
done.
about this year's Dakar in terms of Land Rover content. But your story really resonated with me, and I think many others. Is there anyone that you'd like to shout outs to for this process that you went through?
Can I just say for me, Helen,
There's-
because I would never. That's not in my world, doing Dakar, including the car. We've got loads of sponsors, but it was Helen that put it together.
Right on. Very cool.
And you have to say thank you because I wouldn't have done it with anybody else. We're a team. If we're doing something, we're doing it together. Other people that I think just because it will really annoy them is all the people who said we couldn't do it. Got negative comments and looking at the Facebook posts when we had internet at night.
Right on.
I've done it all through. And some of the comments to the mental log, and the person who said, "Oh, well, you've got there now, you can go home because the dishes are piled up in the sink." And I'm sure they thought that would depress us. But actually, we had a laugh about that. Motivations to keep going. Somebody who's like, I think they said in Derbyshire, you might get past halfway. And it was all of these people you just think, oh, you know what? You get put your comment somewhere
But-
because
but
we're going to
Ian-
get to the end.
And also, though, for every one of those, we must have had 500 amazing supporters that came from we know where. And, every day all that, it made us all, we just, people were fantastic. I mean, we got sent one reel from, was that Australia? It said on it, imagine if this was your mum. And so we've too,
Well, on behalf of the rest of the world, for you there representing Team EU, thank you again. And we look forward to having you folks on the show again soon. And please keep us updated on your adventures and your travels and keep out there and keep going.
Thank you so much for asking.
All right. Well, hey, I absolutely love those two. They are so funny, so lovely, so irreverent about their, just amazing experience. And I think that the thing that it left me with is the determination that they got from people saying they couldn't do it. Spite is a very powerful medicine.
Oh, it sure can be. But they're so down to earth and they're so humble. So many people are like, "Oh yeah, I did Dakar. World's toughest race." They're just like, "Oh yeah, we did that," and it's really cool.
got this stuff too.
Not only
doing
did
this.
we do it, but they're going to do it again.
They're going to do it again, and they're going to keep doing it until somebody makes them stop. So that's fantastic. Well, much exciting things happening around here. Next episode, we've got to recap your trip cross country. I was over in the UK. Holy moly, is there a lot going on? But at any rate, until then, we'll see you next week.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Beres, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Beres. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.